Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 2022 Investec Cape Town Art Fair Talks program. My name is Céline Seror, and I am the co-founder of the print and digital platform, The Art Momentum. I am delighted to be joined today by my colleague Faye Jackson for our 5th year collaboration with the fair. We had the pleasure to curate this year's talk program, and we will be hosting it, in fact, this last session today, together with our outstanding guest speakers and moderator. But let me also say that I'm very happy to be here today with real people. And it's been 2 years that I had only seen people on the screen. So to have you and be able to exchange with you face to face is a real pleasure. Just before we start with, as I said, our last talk for the day, I want to thank Laura Vincenti and her team for their welcoming here at the Investec Cape Town Art Fair, as well as the Consulate of Italy in Cape Town and the Italian Cultural Institute of Pretoria for making this day possible. And also maybe just a few words about the Art Momentum. Every project that we are working on is focusing on sharing the words of artists and art professionals who contribute new perspectives on the world we are living in today and the world we will be living in altogether tomorrow. So with this last talk of the day, and by the way, I want to thank the people who have been with us the whole afternoon and are still with us now. We are going to deep dive into the metaverse. So that's quite a program. And we want, with our guests, to have a look at the impact of non-fungible tokens, also known as NFTs, on the art world. And with us, to explore this new metaverse, we have the pleasure to welcome President Oni, also known as Rendani Nemakwavani. And Rendani is an illustrator and a digital artist whose artwork intend to communicate and represent a new perspective on blackness. We also welcome Alex Kutse, who is an artist and the co-founder of the Plot Gallery, a virtual space that explores the opportunity of the online world for the arts. And lastly, let me introduce you to our moderator today, Shiran Ben Abdezarak. Shiran is the former executive director of the Ramborg Foundation, and over the past couple of years, he also has been analyzing the emergence of NFT in the art world, and is today the co-founder of Beeple and the founding members of Joining the Dots. So welcome to the three of you. And thank you very much for being with us. The floor is yours. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Céline. Yeah. Thank you, Faye. Thank you, the Investec Cape Town Art Fair. And thank you all for being there. I mean, it's good to see that NFTs are having this momentum today. I think we are going to get... So basically, what we are going to do today, it's not really a talk. I mean, we are not going to do some kind of very formal panel. We wanted to, and it's happening, yes, it's okay. So we wanted basically to try to enter into a dynamic conversation. I mean, because there is a lot of things that we hear about this trend. There are a lot of unknown about these trends. It's basically a new technology. This new technology can open a lot of opportunities for a lot of sectors, a lot of industries. The art world is one of them. And so today we are with Rendani and Alex, who are actually artists who already experienced in the NFT technologies. So we are going to start all our conversation by some kind of description of what is an NFT before starting in anything else. Then Alex and Rendani, they are going to share with us their experiences as artists that use this medium. And from there, we are going to go through the technicalities of this. So what does it mean for an intermediary, a middleman, an artist, a collector, whoever you are in the value link of the art world. What would that mean if you want to enter into the NFTs technology? Then what it means financially, because it's bring a lot of upside on this field, and the biggest question about the blockchain technology that we are listening more and more since this emergence, and it is like it is going to cut the middleman. Is it true? We are going to dig into that. We don't think, but we will see. And lastly, this strange thing about community and engineering, and we are going to go there. So basically, before start, I just would like to know who here is familiar with the NFTs. Okay, some. Okay, great, perfect. So please feel free to intervene also in the conversation if you want and if you can. So basically what it is, we all globally heard about them with these sales at Christie's for nearly $70 million, or $69.3 million of Beeple. So basically when this emerged, a lot of things started to appear, and a lot of myth started with the NFTs, and already everybody started to think that NFTs were basically JPEG or GIF or images, digital images, which is not true, which is not totally true at least. So Céline said that NFT stand for non-fungible token, which when we say that, we didn't say anything. But basically what it is, basically it's an application, it's one of the many applications of the blockchain technology. In few words, what is blockchain? I'm just going to stand up, sorry, just like my breath. So basically, what is blockchain? Blockchain is, for the camera, it's okay. Basically, blockchain is a technology that is revolutionary, that is revolutioning the database. Concretely, it's just giving to the participant of a database the ownership of it and the total transparency with encryption methodology, who is giving a lot of securities to avoid the database to be tampered. So if we get back to what is internet, basically just a sum of a lot of database interacting together. So when we are going to blockchain technology, that means it's going to change the architecture of our digital world, basically. So I don't know if it's clear or no. I tried to simplify it at the more I can. So from there, actually, there were a lot of blockchain, and each blockchain is actually a database that is transcripted, transaction, or operation. Whatever this operation can be. It can be financial one, it can be exchange between people, it can be anything. So basically from there, it is possible to develop program on these blockchains. And part of these programs are, are contracts, smart contract. Why do we say that it's smart contract? Because it's contract that we are coding. There are programs that are giving some kind of certificate of authenticity. So basically, an NFT is a certificate of authenticity giving you, so basically it's a piece of code, a piece of data, encrypted, so very securized, that is giving the ownership of a digital object. This digital object is on a server, which is, this open a lot of problems also, but this is another question. And actually, what am I? I'm here, yeah, no. Yeah, and so basically, this digital object, who is based and stored in a server, can be the representation of something else. I mean, it can be a JPEG. I mean, you can effectively own an NFT who is giving you the ownership of an image who is stored on a database, on a server, sorry. But also, it can be a certificate of authenticity for something else. And the digital object will be only the representation of it, just like any kind of contract. I mean, if we sign a contract together today, this contract will be the representation of something else that we are going to agree on. So I think I hope that's clear. If it is not, please stop me and ask me a question. Yeah, so basically it's a piece of data owned by a cryptographic wallet. Cryptographic wallet, we are going to come back to that after in the technicity of it. Yeah, sorry, please.
Yeah, I've got a question. So you own the digital image. What about the intellectual property?
This have to be encrypted. This have to be written in the smart contract. But globally, the question of the intellectual property right now is still, I don't know how to say it in English. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. And you can even not earn the physical image and only imagine today in this art fair there is a painter who is going to do an NFT on one of his painting. But in the smart contract that he's going to sell, he's not selling the paint. He's just selling the property of the image of the painting. It's very different. And for example, gli Uffizi, the Museum of Uffizi de Firenze at Florence, they sold an NFT of Michelangelo, and they did that in order to fundraise money for the museum. But actually, they didn't sell the Michelangelo. They just sell to someone who were really fond of Michelangelo, and I think it was $150K, something like that. They just get the right to use this image and display it in their house. But it's the image, it's not the painting. But again, this is quite the trick that you have to get, because NFTs can be absolutely anything. And that is why I'm saying it is not, it's not a JPEG, it's not a GIF, it's whatever the one who wants to contract something will do it. So why would you like to have an NFT? Basically, like anything else, it's because either you will have some kind of rarities, because you suppose that it is rare and that it is going to gain value over the time, or it is bringing you an utility. So this utility, this definition of utility can be very, very wide. And basically now, a lot of conferences in US are starting to use NFTs as a pass for events. So I'm certain that in 5 years, 7 years, the Invest in Cape Town Art Fair is going to sell her tickets by NFTs, because it's much more easier to control who have access to what. And after that, you can just like do the QR code thing and pass through it. But we are going to go to the utility after there, because utilities also, it opens a lot of dimension to what can be exchanged, and here all the middlemen, all the institutions can really start to develop new ways of doing what they do. Utility is to give another example for utility, it's the copyright thing. Le droit de suite en français, and it's the second market in English. So when a creator is selling a piece of art, he's supposedly getting some kind of royalties each time the piece of the work is sold again. So, except that it is very complicated for creators today to follow this rights, because I'm a collector, so when I'm going to sell something, maybe I'm not even in the same country, or well, anyhow. But with the NFTs and the technology of the blockchain, actually it is automatically rewarded into the wallet of the creator. So basically, and I think you are going to speak about that, basically each time one of your collectors is selling your piece of art that you did on NFTs, you are going to collect some kind of percentage of this money. So this is another thing that is quite interesting and illustrating the utility thing. So what's so smart about this contract? I just said that. So basically, all the utilities can be membership, access to events, ownerships, and a lot of other things. And here I finished. So now we are going to start the dynamic conversation. So I let the floor to Alex and the little telecommand.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction, Sharon. I'm also just going to stand up. So yeah, as was mentioned earlier, I am an artist and gallerist, co-founder of the online gallery called The Plot. And also important to mention, I think, is that I'm formerly trained as an architect. And The Plot was started in the start of 2020 with 2 other architects, friends of mine and collaborators, Max Melville and Ashley Killer. And we really started as quite an experimental project, thinking about how to act spatially on the internet. When COVID struck, we wanted to still kind of work within our skills as architects, but think about how the experience of art and just more broadly, social interaction on the internet could be more spatial. So this image over here is from an experimental architecture group called ArchiZoom in the 1970s, I believe. This is a project of theirs called No Stop City. And it's been a kind of something that inspired us to start the plot, but also been something we constantly refer back to, which is this idea of an imagined future in which we are all connected through some kind of infinite spatial world in which there are all these objects. And when we started the plot, we had an idea to kind of realize this world of ArchiZoom online. So we created a virtual gallery space and essentially hacked Google Maps, located this 360 image of a gallery all around the world. So you might find it in India one day, in the US the next day. And it became a way for us to kind of engage people on social media. So people would submit pieces from their everyday home while they were all stuck in isolation, and we would populate it into this virtual world. From there, we started kind of collaborating with artists to think more about how this could become an art experience, how it could be something more curated and considered. And with a lot of the art fairs going online, there was the potential to participate as an actual gallery. So how we typically work is we work with artists on a project-by-project basis. So we'll have an idea for a particular fair and find an artist whose work we think could really work well with the techniques of 360 image making. And so in a very kind of simple way, we're able to get artists to understand how to convert, in this case, a series of chalk pastel drawings into a virtual world. So these are some chalk pastel drawings done by Daniel Milan, whose work we're also showing at the fair this year. And these are essentially done in the 360 image format called the cube map, which is just 6 sides of a cube mapped to create a virtual world. And some previous projects that we've done with Michaela Young, again, she works in felt. So it's always been an interesting dynamic for us working with artists who work in physical mediums and translating the work into online experiences. And as a gallery, and especially entering the NFT world, we're very interested in this kind of space of what is referred to as phygital art, so kind of border between physical and digital. There's a lot of NFT work that's being done purely in the digital space, and I think that's very exciting. But I think we kind of see a gap in the kind of conventional art world where people are still perhaps interested in physical objects, but inevitably we all live online in some way. Even if you're an oil painter, you photograph your work, you present it online, and we're interested in making that experience a little bit more dynamic. So just an idea of how that's translated into an image. This is, so when we started actually engaging in the world of NFTs, we saw the potential to take some of these digital assets that we had been producing with artists and create effectively new works out of them. So in the case of Daniel Milan's chalk pastel drawings, not only did we create a virtual environment, but we animated a series of chalk pastel drawings as a GIF. This was then uploaded on an NFT marketplace called OpenSea and sold as part of the Investec Cape Town Art Fair last year, the online fair. And this was an interesting experience for us. This was the first NFT project that we did. We are still very new in the whole NFT space, but coming in, I think, from a very different angle. We have not kind of been involved in the cryptocurrency scene for a long time, but being an online gallery, we're interested in it in kind of the more in the space of the conventional art world. A series of gifts done by Daniel Milan for this year's art fair. These were done from a series of oil paintings. Daniel works a lot from video footage, and this was a kind of exercise which he created a series of oil paintings from a video file of sprinklers that he, I think, saw in Hermanus on his December vacation. We reanimated those as a video file to kind of bring them to life. So it's always thinking about how the digital experience kind of it can extend the experience of a physical object, or add another layer, bring it to life, to tell a story. This is a series of works by myself called Chomi's the Musical, which is a series of sculptural works which I've been producing for a while, and which all kind of take on a certain, I guess, character, which have their origins in a digital process. I work predominantly digitally first, and then fabricate physically later. So given that origin in a kind of digital process, I thought it natural to just bring that digital asset to life. So these come to life in an AR experience. AR is augmented reality. So if you scan QR codes, you can bring these sculptures to life, place them all around the fair. They were, great way to kind of make the work accessible to people all across the world. I mean, when the exhibition launched, Chomis were in London, they were, in the US. It was a great way to, and I think that's an interesting thing about digital art in general, is the way the experience of the work can just live in so many different places. Yes, yeah. So you can effectively establish them anywhere through an Instagram filter or also via our website. And they became ways of like engaging our audience in fun and interesting ways. And for friends, collectors of ours, who maybe live in different countries, it was an interesting way for them to see the body of work. Okay, sorry, last image. Was unexpected. Yeah, I still feel like I still have a bit to say. Maybe if there's any questions at this point. Yes, Lorna.
I'm interested that you only talk about digital art or digital images, whereas in actual fact there you're not distinguishing things that are in the ether, that actually don't have any sort of physical reality.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense of talking about things that are, like we had discussions, I know, about performance and things like that. I don't know if that's what you... Yeah, so Lorna, I just met Lorna yesterday, by the way, and we've had a lot of very interesting discussions about NFTs and the potential for them to, I guess, not just be digital art experience, I mean, JPEGs and GIFs and things, but the potential for it to be a platform for, let's say, performance art. Lorna was telling me an interesting story of a performance art piece that she purchased in the 1980s. Yeah, and had the question of, could we turn this into an NFT now? Because there's no documentation of that work formally. And being a lawyer, I think you were very drawn to the fact that this could be a very, clear way of documenting that, your ownership of it, and then also giving some proceeds back to the artist. Because I believe it was 10 Rand you paid for the performance back then. So yeah, I think there's a lot of work that can be done to, like the case of Michelangelo, being retroactively turned into an NFT, or museums taking collections of maybe not even artworks or geological resources or anything like that to turn them into digital assets and raise funds. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know if that answered your question, but.
No, not really, because I mean you can create a work in the ether, can't you? Which doesn't actually have any physical reality.
Yeah.
It's not a performance. I mean, a performance one is interesting, but you can create this work which actually
doesn't have any physical presence at all. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I would say the majority of NFTs are in that form. I think just for us as a gallery, we're particularly interested in that kind of crossover between physical and digital, but the purely digital space is enormous, and particularly in the cryptocurrency world, very big, and that's where most kind of NFTs are done in that way. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, yeah, the metaverse brings about huge potential for things like AR assets, all of those things which are completely digital things to become, tradable, just like you would in physical things. Yeah. Sorry, another question back there.
So, like for your sculpture that you made on the NFT,
yeah.
were you able to actually get legal rights for your work? As she was also asking.
Yeah, so the AR component, so that's digital file, is uploaded as an NFT on a marketplace, and I'm recorded as the author of it. So even though it gets sold to someone else, I'm still legally the creator of that work. And with that is again the proceeds of future sales will go towards me. So that's kind of all of that is very easily embedded in a smart contract. Yeah. Cool. I'm going to hand over to one last question,
and then we can go to Ren.
Sorry. Okay, maybe I'm going to hand over to Rendani, and then we can do questions at the end. Thank you.
It's okay, I have a mic, thank you. Hello, hi everyone. My name is, thanks. My name is Rendani Nemakabani. I'm an illustrator / artist, and I go by I don't want to say an artist name, an alias, President Honey. I am the president, and I am made of honey, AKA President Money. I like making money. You'll see why soon. Cool, so basically I like to make money, like literally. I am very much fascinated with the politics of what could money look like if we have women on it. There are very few notes in the world that exist. I think the percentage is like under 20% or less, where there are currencies in the world that have like recorded representations of women on banknotes. And I feel like for me, it's very important if we're gonna include women in the conversation of economics and money. Like, why are we not seeing ourselves in the space, So I found that it would be very, very interesting for me also as the president, like, as I'm building my country and stuff, I need to have some really dope looking currency. And this is actually an NFT that I sold last year through ArtX Lagos, which was a really, really amazing and also very scary experience for me, just because it was my first time dabbling in that space. When I first heard about NFTs and what they are, I was so confused. I was just like, I don't get this thing. Like, what's the point of owning a digital thing if you can't have it? When are you gonna look at it? Who are you going to show it to? Like, what are you doing with it, if it's just living on your computer, on your phone, and. I still don't completely get it, but I feel like I'm in a good place now, and I understand the basics. So I hope that, this will help in everyone else who also is trying to get into the basic level of it to, be drawn into it. Because NFTs have been receiving quite a bit of heat the past couple of weeks and days and months. And I think it's just because it's a very new thing that feels like it's so far away from us, We're also living in a time and a space where, because of COVID especially, we were so glued to our screens, we're also trying to separate ourselves from that space. So why is the world trying to bring us back into this environment, especially because we know that it's not good, it's not healthy to be on your phone, to be staring at a computer 24/7, But I feel like we're in also a place where we are just doing that by default. Like, how often do you just find yourself scrolling on your phone? You don't even know what you're looking at, but you're scrolling endlessly. So I think that the NFT space is very, very interesting, especially in the way that I've entered it. Honestly, if the people at Arts in Lagos did not ask me, I probably wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be interested. I would be like Kanye, don't ever ask me to make something that's not real. I'm not doing it, So yeah, I like to make money, and I think I'm a dope-ass illustrator who can find ways to make actual real money by making money. This is another note that I made a few years ago. I'm lying, a year ago. And basically, the point of my work right now, where I'm at as an artist and an illustrator, is to basically just do whatever I want to, because it also just feels like the art space is very much, we work in movements. There's a movement of work that has to live in a certain style for it to be popular, for it to be accepted, for it to sell, for it to be okay, I haven't really come across, and I hope that there are other people who are doing work like this, because it would be really great if we could be in a space where someone could say, hey, there's a money movement with a cooler name, of course, like that we could write about it. I think it's always really important and interesting to have people and communities who are thinking in the same directions that we are. And I think that my work is dope, firstly. But it's also just like really important to be in a space where you're able to do whatever you want to and for the work to also live anywhere, which I think is the really cool thing about NFTs. And I was saying to the guys a few days ago that for me, it feels like this is the space where digital artists can actually make actual money from the work that they're doing. Cool, we all have Instagram accounts. Who's buying that? No one, you know? And also, it's a little bit tricky, actually, just because it feels like it's accessible, but it's not. Because once you get into the NFT space, you then start to realize that there are things that you have to do to actually sell the work. Like, whoever is hosting your work. I, for example, was hosted on a site called Super Rare, and they don't just take, it's not like Instagram, you can't just open an account and upload your work and like get people to follow you. There are tiers to who they want on their site. So it's curated very like carefully and stuff. And I think I was one of the very many lucky people who are able to be on a site like that. I think you're on OpenSea. Yeah, I don't know if they have the same rating system.
Definitely not, no.
Oh, okay, cool. Super Rare is special then.
No, Super Rare is very special.
Okay, it lives up to its name, I guess. But yeah, it's a really cool platform to be able to sell work. I haven't sold this at all. This is still also just on my Instagram. But also, like, the place that I'm moving into with my work is trying to make it tangible. So I've turned these into scarves. I also believe in making work that is able to live as a functional item. Just because, especially from a black space and a black experience as a black person, art is not a thing that we're taught like the West is. You know, it's not a thing that you're taught to admire and keep. There's no value in it. It's like a picture. Why is it sitting in my house? It's not bringing me any food. Like, what is the purpose, you know? So it feels like I'm able to bridge the gap for myself between digital and actual tangible material, which I think is like the really cool thing about NFTs, which has also been really confusing because it's like, okay, cool, so you've uploaded it, you're selling it onto the site, but can you do anything else with it? Like, does it, and the question has come up about who owns it, you know? As the artist, I can put up the work and have someone buy it on the site, and they kind of own it, but I also still own it, because if they decide that they want to go print it, it's worth nothing. Without my signature on it, without like anything that says, hey, this thing is yours forever, if I don't have the digital file, or if I hand over the actual digital file to the person, unless I do that, it has no value, you know? So it needs to always live in the metaverse for it to count as that thing. I hope I'm not confusing anyone. But yeah, so I make this really, really that's a portrait of me. And this is like one of the first ones that I made, just like trialing out how can money look if it has a bomb-ass woman on it, you know? Like, this is it's a cool way to record the time that we're living in, also just like creating history. And also you'll notice that on a lot of my notes, I don't know if there are more. Yes. The amount of money on there is exaggerated. Who doesn't just want to walk around with a 100K note on them? Like, that's cool. You're rich. Yeah, so basically a lot of my work is just about how I feel and think about women and their position in life, how I think and feel about black people and our position in life. And also, it's not like an exclusion of anyone else. If anything, I want people to be curious and ask questions. Like, if you're not from the space, like, ask me, like, why are you thinking about money so much? As a person who comes from a place where I didn't have a lot of it, and now I have some of it, I'd like to have more of it. it's very important to me to be able to make work that sparks some kind of conversation. And this is not money, but it's pretty. And these are basically stamps that are titled after places in the world that I really, really, really love. Osu is a place in Ghana. It's a very small, it's not a city, but it's not a village either, but it's a cool place. And you'll also notice that in all of my portraits, I don't draw men just because I can't relate to that part of life. I don't know what it's like to be a man. I don't think I want to know. Doesn't seem nice. But yeah, this is my work, and I'm an illustrator artist. I don't like to be called a digital artist just because it feels so limiting. But I think as we go deeper into this conversation about the metaverse, we can speak about how digital and real life can come together to pay bills and stuff, and also make you a cool artist. And that's me.
Thank you. What I would propose as a modus operandi would be to actually maybe take 3 questions per for the 4 part that we have, 3 questions from the room, and we can just discuss it and discuss together, so we can just do something really dynamic. Okay, so 3, we have 2 hands there. Okay. And 3, okay. For technicalities, we have all our questions.
Here we go. I would like to know, is the NFT, is it in a legal context? Is it something similar to a first publishing right that you are selling?
Who want to take it?
I don't think it's that. I mean, it's not a right, to reproduce. Well,
it can be.
It can be.
It's not
yeah.
forcibly that.
I mean, it definitely, legally, a smart contract has the potential to say something like that. Like it could anything. But conventionally, the way NFTs are traded are, as assets that are rare and unique.
Plus, I think that it is not recognized as legally. I mean, today it's only contracts between people who decided to be on the blockchains and to decide to contract together. But I don't think that there is legal recognizance. You are a lawyer, maybe you can confirm or infirm that, but basically there is not.
Well, the thing is that ownership is a real right. And
Sorry, do you mind if we use the microphone for this?
there we go. Do you mind if we what?
Use the microphone.
Yeah, I said ownership is a real right. So a real right is you can destroy your object if you want to, A personal right is vested in a contract. So for instance, there are a lot of galleries at the moment who say that you can buy, I won't mention an artist's name, but you cannot resell it for 5 years. Now, that's a contract. That's a personal right. And a real right trumps it. So I don't actually understand how that works. So your question was, is it the same as a first publishing right? Yeah, I'm foxed because I don't know what a first publishing right is.
Okay. Well, actually, on this matter, it depends on what it is written in the contract, in the smart contract. Each NFT can be something. I mean, there are NFTs who are giving you the right to print it. There are NFTs who are giving you Beeple. For example, Beeple, it was not only the JPEG, the digital file. It was also a tablet with all a package and all things. I mean, it really depends on what the artist or the gallerist or whatever the one who is selling the thing is going to sell. So yeah, basically. There was another question just behind you and there. But next round.
I guess it's now more to stimulate a conversation because you said you want to do that with your art. Hypothetically, if I bought your 100K note artwork with the women on it, if I bought that as an NFT, and then potentially I was a fashion designer and I printed it all over a couture dress and then sold it and hosted it at New York Fashion Week, we can bring the lawyer into the conversation. Where would be, you might be mad, right? Because I bought your NFT and made money with it, but then where's the legality behind it? I think, I understand the smart contracts and it usually needs to be specified, but I think as an artist, not really fully understanding the smart contract, you can open yourself up to potentially having people actually, again, make money off of your work.
Yeah, definitely. I think like even for me, that was like the tricky thing, right, about the whole concept of NFTs, because my question in the beginning was always, so you have the digital file, but what happens if you, like you're saying, you do something else with it and you make money off of it, right? And if you don't like keep to our contracts, which we will both always have, I could come for you because it's written somewhere. And the rule is always for me, if you can prove that I said A, B, and C about you not doing that with my work, then I can definitely like come for you. So it's tricky also because like there are people who do simple things like you save stuff like we. I'm angry that you're not sharing the profits. Also, you didn't like give me a heads up that, hey, look, actually, I want to make garments. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to say it. If that's the thing that you want us to negotiate in the contract, then swag, let's go.
But you're selling the rights to the image, so I can do whatever I want.
No, you can't, sir. You can't.
If it's in the smart contract, you're selling the rights to the image. What if you are actually selling the rights to the image?
If it's in the contract, then sure, go for it. Then I can't say anything.
I think a lot of artists are actually giving over the rights to that specific alpha file, and whether it's a JPEG or an MP4, whatever it is, you now own it. You can do whatever you want.
But also, so one of the things that I did when I was handing over files to be uploaded onto Super Rare is that not all of the stuff is high res. So if you decide that you want to do something with it, it's gonna look trash. You are losing quality, you know? So it's,
When I sell an NFT, I don't give them a low res.
that's a you problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same as having a DVD, and bootlegging DVDs is illegal, you know, or like, you know, you don't own the right to the, you know, Beetle CD. You don't own the right to that music. You have a representation of it. You own the files. There are rare cases when, you know, you can sell rights to things, but I'm just saying that that's not something that should be taken for granted when you buy an NFT, that you own intellectual property over the work.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could if you specified it, but yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I added that. It's actually, this is a smart contract. It's basically a software. So it's really important, I think, for those who want to enter into this field to understand what it is. And I think that there is going to be more and more connection between the tech and software development and the art world if the NFT is going to become a real trend. Because actually, right now, when you are going on OpenSea or Super Rare or any kind of all these marketplaces of NFTs, you are just using their basic smart contract, which is very, very limited and not really covering all these questions. So effectively, I think that there is a lot of people who are just selling much more things that they are knowing. And it is important to be aware of that, to educate yourself about these things. But basically now, and one of the projects on which I'm engaged, is we are totally constructing new smart contracts because it's important to know basically what we are going to sell, what we are not going to sell, because artists should and must be protected on their rights. So we said free, so there is this question, and then we are going to the second round. Yeah,
we have a question here. So,
we had the free for this round. There is a putsch of question here.
Many questions. That's yours. Yes.
Thank you. Basically, if I'm understanding, I don't see any difference between the NFT discussion and a real life discussion. You make a painting, it's photographed, you put the photograph around the world, but they still don't own the painting. Somebody else owns the painting. But in your contract of selling your painting, maybe you sell rights to distribute the images, or maybe you sell rights to make prints of the painting. If you want to sell the rights to make prints of the painting, those people get high-res images of the prints. If you don't want to sell them the rights, then they don't get high-res images of the prints of the painting. So I think it's just a virtual version of what's happening in real life. Rarity, like community building, it's all the same of like we're all here looking at art that's really expensive because somebody told us it was really expensive or really good. And then it got really good, and then somebody made a print out of it, and now there's a limited edition print of that painting. Like, it's just the same conversation.
Yeah, except that the new component is the blockchain. And the blockchain is securizing all these things and just putting them forever into some kind of database that can be tampered. So it's just like securizing all these things and all this stuff. So it's the way to formalize it and globalize it, because now it's all around the world. It's not only because between country legislation, you know. So it's
but it's within
the question,
NFT world.
Yeah,
and if you're not part of the NFT world, just like you're not if you're not at the UFITSI, then you still don't have access.
Yeah, but again, I think that the adoption is more and more large, and more institutions are going there. So I think that we are going to be stuck into that from a point to another. I'm not saying it's great or anything. I'm just saying it's just like internet in '96. But yes,
the same thing.
The content is exactly the same, because but just
and then
giving
my
new
second
tools.
part of my question was, Alex, for the virtual gallery, what's the difference between, so you say in between physical and digital? I lost you somewhere in between that of like, what is that actual thing? Like, is it a 3D object? Is it like, are we seeing like all the way around the painting, or like?
Yeah, so if you go to our booth at the fair, you'll be able to experience some of these virtual online experiences. So, I mean, there are virtual worlds that you can access via your phone. If you scan a QR code, you can see a series of felted tapestries form, you know, a 360 environment, which you can walk around. Or if you had a 360 headset, virtual headset, you could walk into a virtual world. Or in the case of the AR objects, they can be established in front of you as 3D things that you can walk around, and they dance around you.
So the artwork isn't changed?
No, the artwork isn't changed. It's kind of,
just
you know,
a space that you're in.
Yeah, it's a space that you're in, and we really work with artists that, let's say, have a particular interest in working digitally, or maybe being architects, we also think a lot about like artists who work spatially, and kind of how to extend or like add another layer to that artwork, you know, tell a story. So Daniel, who works a lot from video footage, you know, like let's take the paintings back into a video file and use that as a way of telling the story. And while we're doing that, you know, we can sell that digital file as its own object.
I'm proposed to go back to the first, how to do that? Yeah, to the menu, and just to, so anyone who wants to intervene or ask question on any kind of the topic that are, yeah. So basically, no, because otherwise we won't be able to cover everything. So there are the four last ones. So if you have question, just ask them. Raise your hand so they can see you.
I got a real quick question. Real quick. So what am I getting when I buy the low-res image of your money? Like, it's cool, like, it's great, it's a great way to distribute it, but to me it's not the same as prints because I'm getting this print and that's cool and that's going to go up on my wall. And I get that I can't reprint that and stuff. What am I literally doing with this? Like, am I displaying it in my Facebook room eventually? Like that's what I'm confused about. Like, I totally get it, makes sense, ownership, but the only way is it me just donating to you basically and getting something in return? Like, I don't know, sorry, like, don't get me wrong, I'm trying to just like, I don't understand.
Your question is very valid because I have the same question. Okay. And as someone who's participated in this space not all that much, I'm still also trying to get to that because we might as well just be on Instagram, right? Where I can just see the work and like go to it occasionally if I feel like it. But I think in trying to like understand the space, I don't have a good answer for you. Just because I too am trying to figure it out. And I think also we're moving into a space where even like fashion, for example, yesterday there was a talk about how fashion spaces are trying to move their product into NFTs. And I'm just like, but I can't wear the metaverse, guys. Like, I can't put it on my body, you know? So what is the point? And I think that like, as this keeps evolving and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and more of these questions are being asked, the people who are behind it all will make it clearer or make it simpler. But I think also just like, I don't know if I'm about to say something that'll like sound weird, but in terms of like sustainability, for example, you will always have that one place where you can go to, instead of like having like tons of things in your house all the time, you know? Like you have one space where you can keep this thing. And I totally get like, what is the point of having the art if I can't see it when I wake up? I have to go and open my phone. I have to go open the laptop. You know, it's a very like complex thing and it's very tricky. But when I have the answer about the true why, I will give it to you because I too am trying to solve it.
Yeah. I think it, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do think it makes kind of transparent, like, I don't know, you don't buy a Jackson Pollock because you really wanted to go see it, because you could go see it at a museum. You buy it because you want to own it, you know. And I think, it, you know, that is a big part of it. Like, we're all on our phones and, you know, you see all these images, but I think it's interesting to think about, you know, actually taking ownership and saying, I own this. And yeah, I mean, there are cases of, you know, a digital print maybe accompanying an NFT sale. That is very common. But I think the big part is actually owning it and being able to trade it. Yeah.
And plus, oh, it was her turn to ask a question. You stole the mic. No, I'm joking, sorry. No, the last point, there are more and more. If you go on Amazon right now and you just search for NFTs displayer, and you will find a new, I mean, market. People are just changing the, you know, there is this thing for a long time, the digital frame. Now they are calling it in marketing NFT frame. I mean, it's just crazy. So basically, you can just frame it in your house also. Sorry, yeah.
I think it might be important to think about or talk about the like advancements or the capability that a digital realm brings. So maybe it's something like a smart contract can react to its own. For example, a smart contract can react to its own like state. So every time it's sold, it could record that, and then you could incorporate that into the digital work. So it's something like, you can imagine something like this artwork growing every time it's sold. I think it might be quite a cool thing about the like digital world is this fact that it can react to itself. Like it's not just about, you know, maybe right now it's just about owning artworks, but there is a lot that can happen. Like the ideas that you can bring to it are already endless. Like another one is, for example, 10 people could own something like a digital portal, something like that. You can imagine a character that comes and like visits every painting around the world, you know, because they always have to be connected to the internet. So like you you could have like ownership of like some digital thing that comes and like visits you, like a digital entity. Yeah, like an avatar, you know, like sometimes you like look at your painting or be there. There's a lot that like the digital world can bring that just you can't do right now in the physical world. So I think that's like quite a cool thing.
Yeah.
And then like maybe one other thing to bring up about the technicalities is that if you own an image, like an NFT image, it's saved in a database. So you don't actually, the image isn't in the blockchain. It's just like the recording of the fact that you own the image is on the blockchain. The actual image is on a database. Like there's a thing called IPFS, which is like the interplanetary file system. And that's where like the image actually is, and you basically own the link to it. And like one interesting thing about this is the guy that built Signal, he made it so that if you looked at it from a different website, it would change. So like if you had it on OpenSea, it was just like an image of poop or something, and then it literally was. And then like if you had it in your wallet, it was actually like a cool thing. So yeah, I mean that's something interesting about the digital sort of space, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting to think about. We've been talking a lot about the legal side of it, but to actually think about what it enables in terms of digital mediums. And I think one of the interesting things is just that like we all spend so much time like behind our screens and work digitally, and just what it enables for new mediums going forward that can be taken seriously because there is a proper way of monetizing them. So like things like generative art, 3D art, augmented reality, like can be taken seriously as artistic mediums.
I think that part of my, not a problem, but like the thing that I feel like is an obstacle a lot of the time with this is that it feels inaccessible, right? So it feels inaccessible because let's look at in the context of South Africa. We had elections last year, and was it last year? Yes. We had elections, and according to how a lot of us who were on the internet were interacting, it felt like, oh my God, the whole country went out and voted. Only to find that like not even half of the people in the country voted. And that's just based on how the internet makes it seem as though there are so many of us who are doing this one thing, but actually they aren't. We're like a drop in the ocean. And so I think for me, like, the one issue that I have with this is that it feels very inaccessible. How many people are in this country who don't have access to basic internet? So they don't know that this is a thing that is possible, Everything is still in the space of it being tangible. And I think like for the metaverse to be a thing that we can all be a part of, we have to have like basic things work, And I'm definitely not against NFTs. I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle because it's like there are many cons and there are many pros, And I'm in like a very cool position because I know how computers work. Like I have the basic literacy of how the internet works, and I also have the thing in me that wants to know more about how NFTs work and how they can work for me, right? But I feel like it's very difficult, especially when we're living in a space where there are so many people in the majority who can't participate on this level. So how many people are going to be able to one day do this? Like COVID was a good example of how like our education system is shit. Like a lot of things had to go into the digital space, but there were schools that were struggling with one computer, one iPad. Like we're living in a space where this room is having this conversation, but like for each one of us in here, there are probably like 50 other people who are like, what the fuck? And I think it's very important to be able to, and I don't know what the solution is, but I think it's important to be able to bring this into a place where more people can participate and also like help in solving the understanding of it all. Because I think like it's really, really great and what it can do for the world and whatever, but it doesn't help if only like 5 out of the 10 million people in the world can participate.
Yeah, but aren't you describing the problem of the art world? Because basically, who is getting access to the museum, who is getting access to the galleries, and so on and so on? I mean, it's also true more broadly for this world. I mean, it's and on the contrary, there is something that can help the artist in some kind of country, because I'm living in Tunisia. I was supporting visual artists in Tunisia for many years now, and in Tunisia we have a trouble. The artists don't have the right, because of the dictatorship that it was before, they don't have the right to export their piece of art. And NFTs is a good solution, because as long as the contract is already out, authorities can do anything. You know, I mean, it can also solve problems where the other problems that you are pointing at are totally true, but maybe more broadly shared with all this artwork.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's so complex, man. Like, it's so complex, you know, because it feels like Africa especially is trying to still catch up to the world. We're still trying to catch up to everything that is happening, because things come to us last, you know? And I feel like we are able to resolve so many things if we are all able to participate, you know? So as much as I also have like qualms with the art world and like what you're saying and like artists being robbed and just people not knowing how the space works and yeah, it's complex.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it helps to also break down some barriers, you know, geographical barriers to entry. You know, if I think about also just like what, you know, having a smartphone today is probably like the biggest kind of access to information. I mean, it is still an expensive asset, but makes, you know, access to things that were, you know, far more removed 10, 20 years ago, like to a much more, you know, wider audience, and possibly a lower income audience, you know. And there are a lot of interesting stories of NFTs, big NFT projects developing in developing countries where, you know, just having an access to internet connection can enable people to make a lot of money in ways that they probably couldn't before. So I mean, I think it is, like you said, it's a very complex thing. I mean, there's a lot that I find troubling about, you know, never mind the metaverse, but just being on Instagram constantly and like the kind of what that does to you socially, but at the same time it enables so much connectivity and so on. Yeah, it's complicated.
So I'm sorry, I have to conclude, I think. So we will end on this very strong truth. It is very complex.
It's complex, guys.
So thank you very much. We didn't get all the things that we wanted to do, but it was maybe too ambitious. But let's open the discussion anyhow. So thank you. See you with them.
Unfortunately, we do have to conclude this session. I understand that there are a number of other questions, but I want to thank our panelists for doing their best to answer all the questions that everyone had. And I'm assuming you guys will be around this evening, so just an opportunity to promote more discussion, I think, for the rest of the fair. So thank you all so much for attending, and thank you to our panelists.